Hi, welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lulu. On this week's episode, Christina Rice discussed how to truly manifest in all areas of our lives from health to abundance and much, much more. Christina is an intuitive channel, energy healer, author of Manifestation Mastery, How to Shift Your Reality and Co Create with the Universe, and founder of Ahai 7D Energy Healing. She's also the host of her own podcast of 7 years, Christina the Channel. Christina has worked with countless CEOs, founders, celebrities, and professionals looking to optimize their performance, find full alignment, and create freedom in their lives by mastering the energetics of money, health, and relationships. After battling multiple chronic illnesses and becoming a functional nutritional therapy practitioner to help herself and others heal through nutrition, Christina realized there was still a missing piece to her healing journey: spirituality. She was able to transform her life and build a 7-figure business by age 25 through energetic work, rewiring her brain, and manifestation. And she went on to download Ahai 7D, a powerful new form of energy healing. Christina has helped thousands of people master manifestation, reconnect with their intuition, and reach their highest potential through her monthly membership, live workshops, and transformational programs. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm so thrilled to have today as my guest, Christina. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I feel like it's been a long time coming. So here
I
we
know
are.
I've been manifesting you on the show for a while. Now it's just divine timing.
Yeah,
Yay.
it all worked out. So thanks for having me.
Oh, perfect. You're welcome. So before we dive into some of our amazing topics today, where we're talking about the book and energetics and some channeling, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your story, which I think is, especially from the health perspective, is really enlightening, especially for my audience. And I'd love for you to talk about what was your spiritual journey? How did you get to where you are today? Because I think that piece is so important to where you are now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I'm Christina. I'm an intuitive, I'm an energy healer. I do a lot of mentorship in different spaces. So now more spiritually based, but supporting people with their business, with their health, that all goes into it. I'm also an author, which is really exciting now. And I have a few more books coming out soon, which I'm very excited about. And I'm a podcast host. I've been podcasting for over 7 years now, which is just so wild. But a big part of my life as well. So that's a little bit about what I do now. And where it all began, I didn't grow up super spiritual. I grew up Catholic. And then as I got older, I didn't really resonate with everything I had learned or my experience there. And I just dropped any religion or spirituality. I wasn't really in that space. And I started having a lot of health issues, especially when I was in college, and we can dive into that if you want to in a bit. But I became the mystery case, and basically my body started shutting down when I was about like 19, 20. And for about a year, I was in a really dark space where my body wasn't digesting food. I had to drop out of school. I was seeing a lot of specialists all over, and I was just the mystery case. And I was told like I could die, and they couldn't figure out why my organs were shutting down, why I wasn't digesting or absorbing food. And so that is what pushed me to really seeing the world in a different way, really shifting my personality, really learning to appreciate the present moment and realizing that I had been living a lot of my life for other people rather than myself. It was a big reality check, a big rude awakening. And I realized I got to figure this out myself. And that is what led me down the path of holistic health and understanding the power of our diet and our lifestyle and our mindset and healing the body. And so it was through that I fell in love with food. I fell in love with living a healthy lifestyle. I really went from standard American to like really looking at things from a holistic perspective overnight. And it changed me. And it was that passion that then led me to talk a lot about that on my podcast, my blog at the time. I started growing my audience and really wanted to support other people who were mystery cases like me and were dealing with different chronic illnesses. And that is what eventually led me to becoming a holistic nutritionist. And so that was the first thing I really stepped into after school. And I worked with a lot of people like me. Now, in my own personal health journey, things have been going pretty good, and then took a took a dive and I wasn't doing well again. And once again, it was like no one could figure out what's going on. And that is when I went to see my first psychic. My doctor at the time, my functional medicine doctor, recommended her to me. And I was like, I'll try anything, because when
Mhm.
you're in that space, you will try anything. And so I went, and it was a really incredible experience. She was amazing. And after that, it was this catalyst for me of, I just started having different things pop into my reality, and I just could feel myself being guided in certain directions. And I was just
Mhm.
following the signs. And that is what led me to becoming an energy healer. I had a dream about it and I thought, I'll just try it out. Why not? And I started to really understand on a deeper level just the connection between our energy, our emotions, and how that being stored and trapped was contributing to my sickness, and how I created an identity around being the sick person. And so this was the point that I had gotten diagnosed with Lyme and mold. And at that point, I was really deep into energy work and brain rewiring, and started to use that to heal my body. And I healed really quickly. And then I started applying this with people I was working with in my nutrition practice, and people were getting much, much better results. To be honest, when I really went harder in the energy healing side of things. And then after that, I ended up pivoting and moving more into business coaching. It was just like a natural organic progression for me, because I was once again applying a lot of these principles to my business as well. And it had
Mhm.
grown really quickly. I was doing really well, and people were always asking me for support. And I decided I might as well just get paid for this, because this is what I'm helping people with all the time on my own
Right.
time anyway. So I pivoted in that direction for a while. And behind the scenes, that whole time, I have been doing a lot of the energy work was a consistent thing. The intuitive work was a consistent thing. And then I hit a point where I just decided to go all in on that. And I think those different pockets of my life and helping people in those capacities more deeply with their physical bodies and then with their businesses was so important for me. And I feel just gives me a much more rounded perspective now in what I do intuitively.
Mm.
And it has definitely served me, and that will continue to go on throughout my life. I always, whatever I'm going to channel or bring through energetically, my whole life will recalibrate so that I'm living out the experiences. For people listening to this podcast, especially, I was deep in chronic illness for a long time. I struggled a lot with my mental health for most of my life. I had really serious depression and anxiety for a long
Mm.
time. I went the Western medical route. Then I went the Eastern, I went the holistic. I've done it all. I've tried I've tried every single diet out there, and I have all that personal experience. I've done all the protocols, but I also have that experience with clients as well, which I think is really valuable. And I'm sure like you get this of, there's just such a big difference between somebody who has read a lot of books, read a lot of studies, and somebody who has actually worked with people. Because when you
Mhm.
work with people, you realize people are so bio individual, and there's not going to just be one diet that works for everybody. And there's not going to be one diet that works for you throughout your whole life necessarily. And so
Right.
people are all just so different. And I think that's just really important to bring up, because I just look back on a lot of the things that I've learned and pieces of information and perspectives I've collected over the years that I'm really grateful for. And I wish I had heard a lot of this earlier on, because I was so like desperate to find the answer, and I was really looking in a lot of the wrong places.
Mhm.
Now with what I do, I just want to offer a different perspective for people to help them create change more quickly if they want that. And so if I can save somebody else time and suffering, I would love that, because I know what it feels like to be so deep in a dark hole. And really, I felt hopeless for a long
Right.
time, first
Yeah.
with my mental health and then my physical health. And it makes me really sad. So there are answers out there,
Mm.
and you can heal. And I think
Right.
that's the most important thing. Like, you can heal.
Wow, I love that, Christina. Thanks for sharing. I think it's so relatable, especially for people that are listening that are in that chronic disease state. They feel lost. They're just like they're sifting, trying to get anything from the universe to help them. And like you said, just trying everything from Western to Eastern to energy healing, trying to find the shoe that fits to finally help them. But I think that people have lost the ability to recognize that's the healing, that's the inside piece, right? It's like you have to dive deep in. Did you find that was part of your journey too? It's like the more that I see that with my patients, the more they really let go of the things that are holding them back from their healing, the more healing that then they have and they can receive, instead of just let me try this new pill, or let me try this remedy. This is going to finally do it for me. Let me try this new diet.
100%. It's just a different version of a Band-Aid approach. And
Right,
that's what we can so
exactly.
often do in the more holistic space is we're looking for the right diet or the right supplement. And I'm not saying that's not helpful,
Oh,
but
yeah.
for most people, because I was working with that type of client, and I was this person where I so desperately wanted it to be, if I increase my protein by 5 grams, is that going to be the magical thing? And
Right.
that's just where we're making it way too complicated. And for everybody, there's an energetic root to everything going on.
Mm,
And it really is about doing that deeper work. That could be neural reprogramming, that's trauma
mhm,
healing, inner child work. And to be honest, really reconnecting with your body. Because one of the things
mhm,
that I know happened for me and I see with a lot of people is we're so desperate to help our bodies that we get disconnected with them, and we are making
mm,
all of these decisions from the brain or the mind instead of also tuning into our body's own wisdom. And for me, especially on the other side, I still had a lot of work to do around healing my relationship with my body in terms of for a lot of years, I was trying to heal her while I was in resistance to her. I felt like she was fighting against me. I felt like, why are you sick? And I was viewing her as she was doing something wrong. So I'm
mm.
creating this dis-ease right in my system rather than recognizing that she was screaming for my help. She was working quite properly. She was telling me that there were things very off in my
Right.
life. There,
Sending the
there are things very
messages.
off in my life, yeah, very off, like, and that goes far beyond just, yeah, she will scream when I'm eating a food that's not ideal for me. Getting those
Mhm,
messages, or if I'm not sleeping enough, or if the exercise I'm doing is not right, like, I have to tune into that. But the other thing is how the physical body responds energetically when we are in situations that aren't ideal for us. So I started to recognize that for me with a lot of like my bloating or digestive issues, that
mm,
always happens when I'm around people who are not in alignment for me. And so the more
mm.
I started to release relationships that weren't serving me, my digestive issues were going away. Right. With when I was focusing on things in my business that were not in alignment for me, where I was like hustling more, or I could just feel like this isn't right and I'm trying to make it work, I would start to get a lot of my Lyme symptoms come back. I would
Mm,
get a lot of autoimmune stuff. My vision would be off. I'd have achy joints. And I started to
mhm.
realize so much of this is energetic, right? My body is telling me like this isn't working. And so there's just a much bigger picture, and it's easier to change your diet. It's easier to take another
Right.
supplement. That is honestly the easier path. It is harder for us to look at our lives and be like, what do I need to release? What do I need to let go of? What is causing
Mhm,
dis-ease in my system and in my body? But that is where the real healing begins. And unfortunately, most of us don't make changes in our lives until something shakes our world, something rocks our world. And for most people, it often ends up being the physical body. And
right.
so I feel like I personally believe that chronic illness, like physical symptoms that aren't going away, chronic disease, those are the spiritual catalysts. That is the universe being like, you're ready for an up level, you're ready for something
Mhm,
bigger. And guess what? Like your body is shaking things up because that's the only way that it's going to catch your attention. Without my chronic illness, I would never be where I'm at right now. Without my
mhm,
chronic illness, I would be on a completely different path. I wouldn't have been forced to slow down, to look at myself, to shift how I was showing up, to honor my truth. And so it was the chronic illness that was the biggest gift. It was hard, but it was the thing that woke me up and actually
mhm.
guided me to a much higher path.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And I think I see that a lot with patients when they're in that stuck place. There's no movement because they don't have the energy or the desire to change that spiritual side of themselves or look at the trauma or look at a way that they can, if they're want to stay in the illness. Or another part of it too is I think they become one with the illness, right? Once they're labeled with that particular disease, they become one, and they part of them associates all their life with it, like the care they get, the things that happen in their job. And so to make a change out of that can be a scary place sometimes for them. And I'm working with them to help them to see, create a vision of what your life would look like if you didn't have this disease anymore. What would it be? How would you handle your body? What would you eat? How would you sleep? And then some people can't make that vision even happen.
Mhm. It's the most important thing, right? That was the
Mhm.
big reason why look, I get it. My entire business and life, my top-rated podcast, all of my coaching, like my whole life was around health and wellness. And for me to heal, I had to pivot. I had to leave the health and wellness space because I realized like so much of my life is around this and I can't keep focusing on it. I need to focus on other parts of my life. I need to focus on other topics. And my why behind so much of why I did everything was because I had attached my identity to being sick, right? Already anticipating I'm not going to want to do that because I'm going to be tired. I can't
Right.
eat that because it's going to give me symptoms. And my why was attached to, oh, it's because this is a part of me. And I think that that is so important for people to tune into. If you're doing everything from the place of because I have this illness, like you've attached your identity to it and you're telling your brain I'm sick. And so if
Right.
you told your body like I'm healthy, I'm healed, I'm vibrant, I'm abundant, I'm energized, then what decisions would you be making and starting to make those, right? Because you're telling your brain what you want to be true. And so that's really
Exactly.
how we can start to shift our reality. So it is looking at why do I do all the things that I do? And for me, I also had to really separate myself from people who I felt like were feeding into that. So
Exactly.
I went through a long period of I cut off most people in my life. I felt like my dynamic with them was keeping me stuck in that sick pattern because they would treat me like I was sick. And I would have
Mm.
these conversations of I'm good, you don't need to worry about me, but not everybody was still acting in that way. And I was like, I just had to separate myself because there was no way I was going to shift my own identity or my own perception around myself when everybody who was looking at me was like speaking to me as if I was still sick or I had these problems. So I had to separate myself and I had to release a lot of relationships or even just press pause to really start to shift the way I was showing up in my identity and really just get in my own lane and get in my own energy and find my flow again as a healthy
Mhm.
person.
Yeah, that's so important. That's a huge key piece, I think, to really you are changing your identity when you're in that place of chronic illness, and you're because you're not going to be that same person anymore. All your relationships are going to be different. Everything in your life is going to be different. So having that space and support to make the shift or cut off toxic relationships to be able to shift your life is a huge piece. Some people can't always do that with every person in their life, but they can create a new relationship by talking about it. Okay, this is what I'm doing. This is how I want to shift things moving forward. That can be helpful too.
100%. It doesn't have to be cutting people off, but it can be just an open,
Right.
honest conversation around,
Yes.
hey, I am trying this new approach and I really want to live like I'm healthy. And a lot of our conversations are around things connected to my sickness. And so I would love to just set that aside and let's focus on other things. Let's
Mhm.
focus on things that have nothing to do with my state of health and just have that conversation. And people who love you will want to support you in that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it really is important to think about how often are you thinking about it, talking about it? Are you obsessed with binging podcasts to find answers? When you're healthy, you won't have to do that. And it
Yeah.
gives you so much time back. But the other thing is, if sometimes we subconsciously hold on to our chronic symptoms or illness because it's a way that we hide. And I know this was big
Exactly.
for me where I thought, why am I afraid of getting healthy? Then what am I not going to have an excuse for anymore? For
Mhm.
me, one of the big reasons why I manifested multiple chronic illnesses was because deep down, I felt like my only justification for resting or doing less was if I physically could not. So
Mm.
when I wanted rest, I would manifest my chronic illness because that was the only way I would allow myself to really just chill out. And so I had to recognize, where am I hiding behind this or using this as justification? There were things I was afraid of stepping into. If I didn't have my chronic illness and the world is my oyster, I really got to go for it. I really got to do the things that I wanted to do. No, nothing to hide behind. Or even in social situations, I used to be like, I can't have that because I have this health issue. Says
Mhm.
I'm just not eating that because I don't want to eat it. And I don't really
Right.
care if it bothers you. And so it was really just me learning to own and be okay with, I'm going to make these decisions, whether or not I don't need an excuse or a justification. It just, I'm doing what I want to do. And when I fully gave myself permission to do that, I didn't need to hide behind a chronic illness anymore or have those symptoms.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that many people, not even just with chronic illness, just with lots of different situations, will create something, right, to hide behind because they don't want to be the truest version of themselves. They're just afraid, like, what would it be if I was that person? Maybe they've been doing that their whole life. Like, oh, I can't be that because then I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to have I'll have certain situations I'll have to change. Really important. And when you were in these processes, processes, what was the piece when was the piece that you started to channel, and what did that kind of look like for you? Was there training that was involved? Was there, spiritual development classes that you took? Was there a book? That everything.
Yeah, yeah. After I would say while I was going through my Lyme and mold stuff was when I went through my training to become an energy healer. I
Mhm.
did a longer spiritual mentorship with an energy healer, and she trained me in energy healing. And through that process, she also helped me open up my intuitive gifts. So that was when that started to open up and just felt really natural for me. And so
Mhm.
I went through that process for a bit of that mentorship with her, and then starting to work with practice clients, and then working with real clients. And my energy healing business, I always felt like it was this kind of like underground
On the
thing that I
side
was doing
project.
because yeah, like it was something because so much of my business was very public facing of having my podcast and Instagram and my blog. And people thought that was my business, and it was part of it. But I had a whole in-person energy healing practice that was
Mhm.
always going on. That was a huge part of my life. And I was spending a lot of time on it, but I never advertised it and I never needed to. People just found me. And so that was always going on. And just through working with different clients, that's how things opened up. And then I worked with another spiritual mentor for about a year. And then, yeah, it was after the worst part of my line, like things started to get a little bit better when a lot of the channeling was coming through. So I had been doing a lot of psychic work, but channeling different energies and channeling the way that I channel now was really
Mhm.
opening up right after like the worst part of my line when I was starting to really turn that around. And yeah, it just started naturally coming through. So then once again, working with different mentors. So I've worked with a lot of different people individually to support me in that process. I think it's really important if somebody is
Mhm.
serious about opening up those gifts to work with somebody, especially if you're ever working with clients, like doing that responsibly is very important. So I've had a lot of different mentors along the way. I don't have any books. I'm not really like a book person like in terms of learning things like that. I just
Right.
prefer to have that individualized
The
attention. But the thing is
one-on-one.
that the way that I view opening up your intuitive gifts is that there are the skills, the technical skills, but the biggest thing for everybody is it is actually the shedding the layers of our false identities that opens up your intuition. It is all of the personal development work. For me, it was all of the trauma healing, all of the inner child work, all of the neural reprogramming, all of the just shedding all of the layers, releasing blocked emotions, all of that just work for me to be my
Right.
truest self was what was naturally opening up all of my other gifts. So I think that's the most important. And that's also really important for accuracy with intuition because it really requires you to be able to identify what's your ego and what's not. To be a clear channel, you have to really anchor into a very neutral state. You have to be
Mhm.
non-judgmental. You have to remove any biases. Otherwise, your readings are going to be inaccurate because it's going to be
Right.
colored by that perception. And so just
Mhm.
the emotional, energetic, personal work to get to a place where you can be a totally neutral slate and just be the medium for the information, that requires a lot of surrender. That requires a lot of trust in yourself. That requires a lot of strength to be able to turn the ego off for a second. A
Mhm.
lot of us naturally want to put our biases in. And so that is a lot of the work of actually being a clear channel. It's clearing all of that so you can really get out of the way. So how can I get out of the way and just be a clear vessel for the information that wants to come through? And I will tell you and this is what I love about this work is there's been so much that's come through
Mhm.
all the time that I'm never expecting. And I just learned a lot about people that I through it and just hearing things that come through. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Even
Mhm.
especially where that really came up was when I was working still with clients who had chronic illness. And I would tune into what do they need for their bodies, like what nutrients, what diet, and
Mhm.
the things that would come through. I'm like, wow, that's really not what I've ever learned.
That
My
wasn't what I thought.
logical yeah, my logical mind would push against it, but I was like,
Mhm.
it's clear as day. And for me, when I started just sharing that with people and they would implement it, it was working. And I thought, you
Mm.
know what? If it's working, you really got to get yourself out of the way to be clear there. And that's, I think, the most important part of doing any channeling work.
Yeah, that's so true. And when I was thinking about you were talking, it's such a different perception or the way that a typical like MD works. They're not maybe 100%, but very ego based, where it's like this is what's coming through. This is what you're going to get. You're going to have this specific prescription XYZ. And I think it's a huge part of what's missing in our health field. I don't work like that as a doctor, and I never will. I use a lot of my intuition and guidance and all the things I bring together for a patient and really listening to them. But I'm hoping that we're going to be shifting more into the place where it's the combination of those two together, right? So you're like, okay, I can be this healer and I can listen to my intuition and I can help you and I can be that clear channel for what you need because it's not about what we think you need, which I
Mhm.
think that's a huge piece of what's so missing.
100%. And you think about, especially if we're talking about like a chronic illness or chronic
Hmm.
disease, the type of person that is struggling with that is not the type of person that's going to fit what you learned in a textbook, right? Because what you learn in
Right.
a textbook is about the quote unquote average. And that
Exactly.
person is not the quote unquote average. So it's literally not going to apply. And so it really is, I think when people are clinging to the science, I just think it's another way of trying to cling to control. Science is
Hmm.
always shifting and changing. The length of time it takes for a study to be done, to be reviewed, to be published, for a
Right.
medical book to be updated. It just takes forever. But there are so many things in science that we believe to be truths for a long time. And then, oh, new science comes out. That's
Right.
actually false.
Boom. Yeah.
It happens all the time. Like we're always learning and growing. And I just find that intuition is a fast track to getting
Hmm.
people there. Um,
Totally.
and for me at this point, especially like further in my own journey, it's my body. So, right, I'll do what I want with my body. But when I just dropped everything I had learned through school, through all of my training, through all my podcasts, like when I just dropped it all and I said, I'm purely going to go off of my intuition, that's when things started working. And to
Mm.
be honest, I don't know if you've had somebody come on to talk about human design, but
Mm.
I really believe if somebody does want a roadmap, the place I would start is human design, to be honest. If
Hmm.
your brain wants something that feels like a roadmap, that is what I would recommend, because I know, at least for my body, like following what's in alignment for my physical body with my human design was a game changer. And I wish I had found
Mm.
that a lot earlier.
I don't know about
Um,
that.
yeah. So human design is a system that combines a couple of other systems. It's based on your birth date and time. So it's the similar
Mm.
as if you're grabbing your astrology chart, you put in your birth date time, and it comes up with this unique blueprint, which is basically how energy flows in your body, how to optimize your energy, how your unique body is interacting with energies around you. So it's your energetic blueprint. There's a lot to dive
Mm.
into there, but there are many components that are very applicable to your health and wellness. For example, there are indicators in a human design chart around, is it is your body most designed to have consistent meals and consistent fuel? Is your body more designed to fast, to
Right.
have inconsistent meals, right? There's things about routines and schedules. There is how you eat and what you eat. And certain things, I think one of the interesting ones is there there are digestive types. And the idea with human design is, how does your body actually absorb energy, nutrients from the food you're consuming?
Mm.
It was a huge light bulb of, oh, this is why I had so many issues. My body didn't know how to absorb the
Right.
the nutrition I was even giving it. So I was malnourished, even though I was eating a ton of food, because
Hmm.
my body didn't know how to interact with that energy. It was healthy food, but it wasn't healthy for my body. One of the interesting ones is there's a digestive type that's called nervous,
Hmm.
basically. And the idea is, there are basically two sides of the coin for each type. And one type is calm, right? So you need to be in your
Right.
parasympathetic, calm space. Like you have to be able to absorb it. But the nervous side of it is those people can really only digest and absorb food if they're running around busy. Like
Right.
they're
Really
not supposed to
fast.
be in
Right.
parasympathetic. Yeah. And so it's a little things like that that go completely against what you're often taught in nutrition school. Or for me,
Hmm.
I learned with my sensitive stomach, like cooked vegetables make it easy to consume. For me, cooked vegetables make me super sick. I do much better with raw things, and everything needs to be cold. I started to notice this. The colder it was, the better I felt.
Yeah.
And so it's things like that that are very applicable. And for me, I wish I had figured that out earlier rather than later, especially
Right.
with, I've tried every dietary protocol and I am so glad I did all of those. I did a paleo for a very long time. I did keto
Hmm.
for 3 years. I did straight carnivore for 8 months. I've done
Hmm.
raw vegan. I've done regular vegan. I've done fruitarian. I've done the potato diet. I've done
Done it all.
AIP. I've done low FODMAP. I've done everything, right? And all of those are different templates,
Yeah.
but how do we actually look at a template for your unique body?
Exactly.
And so I would really recommend, if that is interesting to somebody, to get a human design reading done, a human design reader, because it's a total game changer.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I haven't heard of that, which I'm surprised. I'll look it up because now, of course, now I'm like, oh, what is that? I can't wait
Yeah.
to look it up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank you for bringing that to my attention. Very interesting because I think that's like we were talking. It's the way of the future of healthcare, like really individualized, but in a different way, where what's unique to that
Mhm.
person is so important. And so you're in this channeling space. Back to the channeling piece. I want to just ask you a piece about the DNA because I, of course, genetic genius, I always want to talk about DNA a little bit. And have you noticed your personal body shift? And since you started channeling and doing a lot more of this work, any changes in your body type, your skin, your everything about you, do you see a change? And have you noticed that maybe if you can you see your own DNA? Are you able to do that? Can you visualize? Can you see the light in DNA? Are you that type of worker?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not super honestly, I feel like the more I went into the channeling space, it was like my science brain that used to be strong just turned off. I was like,
Like,
yeah,
nope.
this is hard. It's just not how I'm built. I'm like all right brained. When I did
Mm,
that for a long time, I think I got burnt out because it's just not how I'm built. There are people who are here to be left brained and like science minds, and that's just not my strong suit. So I perceive things now based on what I intuit. And so I do see my DNA, and there's been a lot around DNA. I don't perceive it in a very scientific way. I just
mhm.
see it energetically. But
Yeah.
with the energy I work with, specifically with energy work, it really is the purpose of the frequency really is to upgrade the DNA and unlock the dormant DNA. And
Right.
just the fact that people say that, what do they say, 96 or 98%, something stupid of our DNA
Yeah.
is junk, that makes
Right.
literally no sense.
I know that's
It
because
makes
we
literally no
haven't turned it
sense.
on yet. It's so that's yeah,
I know.
that's bad. That code has to be ripped
It's
up,
just like
burned.
the number. There are so many things I think about that I learned in school, and I'm like, I can't believe I heard that and I didn't question it. Like that makes
Right.
no sense at all. And so anyway, we're at this time on the planet, especially where a lot of that dormant DNA is going to be reactivated. What are
Mhm.
all the gifts and abilities that turn on, right, when we do that? And so for me, with the energy I work with specifically, it is a lot around DNA activation, and that has
Mhm.
turned on a lot for me. I look very different, I operate very different. I have done actual, like, I don't really talk about this much, but like basically DNA transfers where what I've been able to do,
Mhm.
the energy is make an RNA code basically, and then put it in my body and turn that back, turn that on. It has healed things for me and shifted things for me. This is something I've been playing with a lot over the last year. If you look back at old videos of mine or old pictures, I look like a different person. I look like a different person. It's quite remarkable. So my body type has changed, my eye color has changed, my skin has changed, I've been using it recently to grow my eyelashes, which everybody's asking me. I'm like, yeah, it's the energy work. So a lot has changed. And of course, with a lot of that DNA being reactivated, our intuition, our psychic abilities turn on. That's the natural state for us.
Right,
Everybody has
exactly.
psychic gifts. Those other senses get fully turned on. So my senses are sharper for sure. I'm much more sensitive. You just feel all of that turn on. It's a lot of what we think of as superhuman. That's our natural state, and that is available
Exactly.
for everybody. And so the first place to start is with the basic stuff of decalcify your pineal gland and detox. Like detox is a huge thing. And in a lot of the intuitive work I do around how do we really turn on that dormant DNA and that whole process, we have to be focusing on lymphatic drainage. We have to be supporting the detox pathways because we can't get all the old crap, the old energy out to turn on the dormant DNA until we're doing that. So a big part of reactivating that is detox. I don't care if you think you need one or not. Like we have to be supporting our lymphatic system. We just have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
And I think that's just not talked about enough. And I think a lot of people only do that when they have some type of chronic illness, which is
Right.
why the universe is more people are having chronic illnesses to drive people to what they really need. But getting ahead of it, if I was to outline for somebody just based on what I have channeled and the information I receive, how would I really upgrade my DNA? Even it starts
Mhm.
with your whole food based diet, it starts with vibrational eating, starts with really clean water. There is decalcifying the pineal gland, it's detox, it's lymphatic drainage, it is emotion release, releasing old
Mhm.
emotions,
Yep.
and other things. Energy work is totally a super booster. Like quite tangibly for me, like some of the activations I've been doing in the last year, what I have intuited, I'm just sharing what I've intuited,
Yeah, no, that's great.
information, but what what they've shared with me is, okay, so this process I just went through that took me 8 months, or this is taking me 8 months with energy work every single day, be 3 to 4 months. So
Mm,
I'm like playing with the different timelines and how it can just make things go more quickly. And my clients notice that too. I really am a big believer in energy work or any type of frequency work. So knowing what your body responds to, some people work really well with sound, some people work really well like sound healing or things like that. Other people more hands-on energy work, binaural beats, tuning into what kind of frequency really hits you. You can feel it.
Exactly.
So there are
Yep.
so many different modalities, and they all are beautiful and they all serve us in different ways. And so I love all the modalities. I try everything, but relaxing the nervous system so it actually feels safe to change is a big one as well. So the things that we can do to really get ourselves parasympathetic and energetically getting in the energy of receiving, so our bodies can actually shift, which I think is a huge part of healing, right? The body can't heal when we are always in masculine energy and doing, thinking. We need to get more feminine energy to actually put the body in a state where it can transform and shift and heal. That's a big piece of it as well. But yeah, you got to open up the detox pathway if you want to
Hmm.
upgrade your DNA.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, Christina, those are great points. I totally agree 100%. And I think we are in this new place on the planet where I don't know, I don't it's not really new to me or you maybe, but to other people, but where we are able to shift our DNA, and that old code and old thought process you were just talking about is so outdated, right? It's like we are in a place, the only way we can shift our place on the planet, shift our health, continue to move forward is if we do have those shifts in our DNA. And I love that you brought that up, the detoxification piece. Oh my God. Yeah, and like daily, I do myself and recommend to my patients that daily detox because you have to have it. There's so much going on. And I love how you said too, like getting the old like DNA out, right? That because our cells, when the cells die, we have that die off. We have to get the DNA out because we need to be able to shift the body. We don't want just hanging out in there. That is not a good plan.
Yeah, 100%. And with emotions.
Hmm.
So, like,
Exactly.
when you want to clear an emotion, you want to do something physical, somatic to get it out, shaking, dancing, like, got to do something physically to get it out. But the thing is, with energy work, like when I'm doing my detoxification practices for my physical body, that's
Hmm.
supporting my energy as well. So it can all really get cleared. And I think about it as the same way if you keep doing a gut protocol over and over again trying to clear SIBO or keto or whatever it is, and you're not pooping, your detox pathways aren't open, you're not supporting lymphatic drainage, it's just going to recirculate. That's
Right.
also the same, to be honest, with energy work. So when people are coming in and they want energy work and we're clearing out energetically, I'm like, you want to get the most out of it, you need to do something to physically support detox. So like physical stuff can come out because there's something physical attached to whatever happened energetically. And if we're not doing something physical to really clear, then it's almost like the energy can like recirculate. We weren't really making the most of it. So it's a thing of, as if you want to have a really effective gut protocol and clear out those gut bugs, like you want to make sure are things actually leaving the system versus recirculating. And it's the same thing with energy work. So what can we do physically to move it out of the body? Because it's all connected and we have to stop thinking about things as separate, to be honest. So
Right. Yeah, that they're connected. They're totally connected. They're not separate. And the energetic work, like you said, is so important. But the physical piece, if you're going to do breath work or movement or dance to get things moving, I love that you brought that up. And let's talk about your book because I want to make sure. I think we could probably talk together for a long time, but I want to make sure we talk about your book.
yeah.
Yeah. So here's your book, Manifestation Mastery. Such a great book, so easy to read, and so many valid points. And I loved it. And tell us about what was the impetus behind writing the book, or why did you want to write Manifestation Mastery? What was the process for you for the writing? I know you talk about it in the book, but I'd love to hear your story of it a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for reading it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, I this was a channeled text and it really wasn't like a choice for me. I chose, but I was just guided to write it. And so a couple years ago, I had the download a specific energy that I work with that calls themselves the monarch being had told me that they wanted to use me as a vessel to write 3 books. They wanted to write 3 books through me, and these were going to be the topics, and just get ready, they'll let me know when. There came a point a couple of years later where I got the message. I was in the bath and I was just like tuning in, and they said, all right, please mark off a weekend in March and in April. Or was it April and May? I don't remember. It was somewhere in there. 2 weekends, block these off, and you're going to write the book. I thought, great. Blocked off those 2, booked some Airbnbs. And so both weekends, it was just a concentrated period of time where I went
Hmm.
into channel and they just write the book through me. And I opened my eyes and somehow there's a whole book written. Total, if I was to mush the time together, was probably about like 2.5 days of writing. I was over 2 weekends and I took lots of breaks and was just living my best life. Went to Sedona, went on a few hikes, ate at good
Nice.
restaurants and wrote. So it was a really beautiful experience for me and just really a sacred time. So I wrote those, I wrote it and then I just sat with it and
Mm,
sat on it for a couple of months. And then I just kept getting the nudge. You got to release it. You got to release it. And I thought, okay, I guess I got
here
to
we
do
go.
this. Yeah. Then I went back and read it and it's a different experience. It's an interesting experience for me because as I'm writing it, I get the gist. Like I get the gist of what's going on because I am basically seeing visuals that are connected to the messages going through. So I'm getting the gist through those visuals and what those represent for me, but I haven't actually read the book. So then when I went back to read it, really was reading it for the first time. And I thought, whoa, this is,
It's good
this is
stuff.
helpful. This is helpful. Yeah. And so I learned a lot through it too. And I've read it so many times. And every time I read it, I get something different out of it. It really
Mhm.
is like a living, breathing text. And the purpose of it, the content is super valuable, but there's a frequency behind it that's really meant to unlock a lot of that information that's already within us because
Mm.
we already have the wisdom that we need that's within us. And so as you go through it, it's almost like a book of energy work where a lot of people will tell me they're feeling the energy flowing, they're feeling things move and shift. You have these sudden insights, you have these insights about your life or memories pop up. It's not a coincidence. Like energy starts moving the second you say yes to the book, and it really will give you what you need. So it really is a living, breathing text in that way. And why this came down right now is it is very timely, and especially in these next two books in this series, the third one's going to be about the physical body, and it's very relevant to what's going on right now, just as we're going through these shifts and changes. And they wanted to bring through this information because we're at this time where for a long time we could get by with staying stuck in our minds and our brains and that very left brain, more masculine energy side of things. It's just not going to work anymore. And a lot of people are
Nope.
recognizing that. People are feeling that with their physical bodies, they're feeling that with their businesses, they're feeling that with their relationships. Like the way I did all of this stuff, it's just literally not working.
Mm.
And it's going backwards. Businesses, like the strategy I've always used, it's not working anymore. Or with my body, I'm eating the same and doing the same type of movement. How come I'm having all these issues?
Mm.
Because we're being pushed to a different way of being and understanding that everything is energy. And so
Right.
the way that I see this text is it's really foundational, honestly, for everybody to have a basic understanding of how energy flows and how you do get to create your reality and what that actually looks like and how energy moves and how you can create what you want and how you are a co-creator and like where there is that balance between free will and destiny and how my choices are overlapping and intertwined with you and all these different timelines we have.
Mm.
And the way that the guides describe this is just like foundational grade one, what you need to know to move through the new earth. Like everybody should have access to this information. And I feel that it's funny because I used to really hate manifestation content. To be honest, most of it I still think is annoying because it sounds really like fluffy. But people
Right.
think that
Yeah.
manifesting is like sitting on a pillow and making a wish. And it's not. When we talk about goal setting, when we talk about like vision and taking action, like these are all just different words for manifesting. Neural reprogramming is the scientific viewpoint of how you manifest, how
Right.
you're shifting your energy, shifting beliefs in your brain, because it's all about shifting your beliefs, and that's how you can create your reality. And so this book is really meant to hopefully reach a much broader audience because the language is simple and it really is shifting. And what I love about this is it reads much more like a personal development book than any type of spiritual book. So I know a lot of people who might otherwise not really care about manifestation or something spiritual have gotten a lot out of this. It's been cool for me to see a lot of people just in my field who aren't super into spirituality and they read the book and they're like, whoa, that was really helpful for me. I'm not usually into this kind of stuff. And so that makes me really happy because I just do want it to feel accessible. The big message within this is like, you get to create the life you want. You have a lot more power than you think, but we also have to take responsibility for it. The same way what we were talking about at the beginning of when I wanted to heal my body, I had to commit to that and decide that and take responsibility for the sickness that I was creating unintentionally. I had to really take responsibility for myself, my choices, my thoughts, and my beliefs, and what I was saying to myself and what I was thinking. And that was the only way I was going to actually create a different reality and heal my body. It was that radical responsibility. So it really is about taking your power back and learning to trust yourself and listen to yourself again and
Mm.
being the truest version of yourself, right? This book is all about authenticity. It's all about how do you manifest? You raise your vibration. How do you raise your vibration? You come back to your truest self because you're naturally a high frequency person. It's all of the things we're holding on to that aren't in alignment that are holding us down, right? And so are we not being our truest selves? This is a book about freedom, like living a life where you actually feel free because you are your most authentic self. And a lot of us unintentionally are not living as the most authentic versions of ourselves because we're afraid, or we've been pushed into being somebody that really not, or we feel disconnected. We don't even know who that is anymore. We got
Mhm.
just caught up in things, and you wake up and you think, wow, who am I? I don't even know what I like anymore. I don't even know what my
Right.
natural gifts are. And a lot of people can connect with that, and that doesn't make you feel good in your system.
Mm.
I think all of us, what do we want? We want happiness, we want freedom. And you can create that for yourself. It starts with getting to know yourself and really asking yourself the tough questions and being really honest. And that is what this book prompts you to do. There are a lot of questions that are posed throughout this text. And I really encourage people to take their time with every single question
Mm.
that's posed here, even if it means it takes you a really long time to read the book. That is what I do. I spend hours on a single page, and every day I just go up to a page and I read it, and it has something there for me. And there will always be some type of question, sit there and I'll journal and I'll think about it. And it it allows me to tune into a question that's going to open up my own inner truth, because that is why so much of this book is question. It's not telling you
Mm.
something, it's asking you questions that allow you to tune in for yourself and give yourself what you need. And I
Right.
think that is where we really have to come back to, because we live in this time where there's so much information that's accessible
Mhm.
and being thrown at us, and people are confused, they're stressed. So
Right.
this person says I should eat this way, and this person says I should eat that way, and
Google
this person says
says.
I should do that supplement, and people are like, what do I do? And
Right.
I just feel like that's not a problem. It's actually not a problem to have too much information when you know how to trust yourself. But if you're the kind of
Exactly.
person that when you consume information, you immediately give your power away and you think, oh my gosh, am I doing everything wrong because this person said this? Have
Mm.
to look at how can we be responsible consumers, right? And
Yeah.
so what that looks like is knowing our own truth and knowing what's true and good for us, and then being okay with other people having different experiences and opinions, because that's okay. But if I am freaking out when every podcast I listen to, somebody is promoting a different dietary approach,
Right.
the problem is actually within me, of I don't know how to tune in for myself and discern what resonates. Because the thing is, just because somebody says something and it doesn't resonate with me doesn't mean they're wrong, but we all have different bodies and different experiences, and that's
Mhm.
okay. And so it's all just different information. And that is, I feel, where we really get grounded again, we really take our power back of knowing how to discern truth for ourselves and tune into what we need individually, and standing firm in that so that we don't get so caught up in all of the
Mm.
noise.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that explanation of the book because it is about that whole underlying piece about intuition, really trusting yourself. And when it comes to manifestation, if we're true trusting our higher purpose, trusting ourselves, listening, that like our whole body is the ear, every aspect of listening to how what our stomach's saying, listening to what our brain is, but from a different perspective, not just from the physical sensations, but from that energetic sensation. How's the body really talking to me? How are my emotions really talking to me? And one piece in your book too you talked about was there's the effortless manifesting. And I love that piece. Just people you were mentioning the like the fluff of manifesting, but I think people also think like manifesting sometimes can be like so hard. How can I manifest that? Like why isn't it here already?
Yeah.
And
Well, it's like you're always manifesting. And that's where they've missed the point.
ex-
Like
yes.
it's not some 5-step process. And
Right.
that's what people want. The same way they want the answer to healing their bodies to be a different diet or a new
Mhm.
supplement. And they want to manifest something by, okay, what's a protocol? How many times do I write this affirmation down? And then is it going to
Yeah.
happen? And it's that's just not how it works. Here's the thing, affirmations, visualizations, that all does work, but only if you've done the underlying work. Like only if you've done the underlying vibrational work, the clearing of the energy, the releasing the authentic pieces of yourself, the trauma healing, the clearing out the programs that don't serve you anymore. When you've done that, yeah, now the visualizations and affirmations are going to work the same way. You
Mhm.
can eat a squeaky clean diet and take the right supplement. If your hormones are off, your body's not going to budge. So you
Right.
have to do the underlying root cause work so that your body can actually respond to your diet and exercise in the correct way. Otherwise, you're just going to be like, nothing's working. It's the
Right.
same thing with manifestation. And so it is that underlying energetic work that is a big piece, and a
Mhm.
big piece of manifesting. Like when we look at it from the perspective of if I just show up as the highest frequency version of myself and I focus on raising my vibration, now I'm just an effortless manifester, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
vibrating so high that things of that frequency are going to come right to me. And I don't have to even know what I want to manifest. It's just going to come in, whatever I
Yeah.
require, whatever's going to make me feel really good. And so a big part of unlocking that highest frequency and that magnetism is the physical body, right? They talk about this in the book of clearing the physical vessel and optimizing your physical vessel is a huge piece of raising your vibration. So our health is so connected with manifestation, where the more that you take care of your physical body and heal any underlying imbalances, that also opens up your intuition, that opens up your senses, right? That allows you to tune into your
Mhm.
body more easily, and it makes you more magnetic
Right.
overall.
Yeah. So true. I think too, you mentioned being that open vessel with channeling earlier, and that's the same type of thing. If we have this body that is blocked in all the different areas, right? The meridians or our body's basically a big tube. And if we have them, if we're blocked in the middle, stuff can't flow through. And we're not going to be able to have energy flow through. And manifestation is not going to happen well if you're trying to move energy through something that is stuck. It just doesn't make sense. It's very basic, I think.
100%.
Yeah. I think we could talk for a long time, but I want to be aware of both of our times as we're moving through things today. And so let's wrap some things up. Anything else that you want to bring forward about the book that we didn't get to talk about in specific, or do you feel complete with that process?
I feel pretty good about it. I think it's not super expensive book. I think if you feel called to it, I encourage you to check it out. You can do the audiobook or the Kindle version or the hardcover, whatever floats your boat. And you really have nothing to lose, to be honest. I just really recommend if you want to create a shift in your life, pick up the book and just receive it. Just receive the information. Really don't just go through the motion of reading it, like really just read it and receive what's in there for you and allow things to recalibrate in your life as
Mhm.
you're receiving that transfer. And especially with your audience, and if you're looking to upgrade your DNA or shift your physical body, heal your body, and you haven't really looked into the energetic side of things, this is going to unlock a whole new world for you. This is where the magic happens. I see miracle healings all the time. Miracles are normal in my life. It is extremely normal for me to have somebody come into me, we do some energy work, and that chronic illness they've been dealing with for 10 years can go away. That can
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah.
But you have to believe that can happen and know that can happen, because it really is energy that's the block. And I just can't emphasize that enough. If you are in this state where I don't know if I believe that could happen, or I don't know that I believe that could happen for me. Okay, great. Now you have that awareness. Let's flood your brain, your subconscious with plenty of evidence that it happens all the time, that it's possible. This is how it's possible via understanding quantum physics. And from there, you're going to shift that limiting belief. I don't know if I can heal, or healing's for me. And so you can actually get to the place where you can receive that healing and allow that to happen for yourself. So yeah, if it resonates with people, I would love for you to check it out and keep me updated how you're feeling.
Great. We will. We'll pass on the love of the book and review. And yeah, I think it's a really wonderful, like you said earlier, that kind of beginning level too for people that might not be looking for it's not like massively spiritual, which is a strange phrase. It's like this combination. It's very loving and open and receptive. It's very easy to read. So I think people really enjoy it. And tell us how people can find you, follow you, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me everywhere at Christina the Channel. It's pretty easy. My podcast is Christina the Channel. My Instagram is Christina the Channel. My website is christinathechannel.com. And my book is linked on my website. And you can also just Amazon search Manifestation Mastery, or you might see it in a bookstore near you if they have it. But
Great.
yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. YouTube is christinathechannel.com as well. So yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I loved having the space to talk about this side of things. I just think the piece with the physical body and the DNA is so incredibly important, and not enough people are looking at this from this angle. So I'm just really
Mhm.
grateful to be here, and thank you again for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. One last fun question for you. What would you do if you had an unlimited budget right now to make an impact and change the planet?
Oh my gosh. I would go into literally every school and teach people manifestation.
Oh, I love that. That's a great one. Let's make that happen. Let's manifest that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
would
great
like at a
one.
young age, I would teach people manifestation, meditation,
Mm.
like working with energy. I think that would shift the entire planet
Yeah, I think
easily.
that's definitely going to happen soon. Thank you again, Christina, for coming on the show. And I loved our conversation, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.